Hi kids, this is Bruce in Boise. I thought today it'd be kind of interesting to discuss the decision process that I went through making up my mind to buy this Ibanez FR1620 guitar. I was essentially looking for a high-end guitar so that I wouldn't buy a guitar and then feel dissatisfied with it, and in 6 months or a year or 2 years or whatever feel like I needed to go out and buy a better guitar. So I decided that I would just take the time and do the research and try to find sort of what's on the market these days. I've owned several really magnificent guitars in the past. I've had a Les Paul Custom, which was a gorgeous guitar, and you know, some nice acoustics like Martin D35s and stuff. But anyway, I hadn't played for a while, and I was getting back into playing fairly heavily. And I thought, well, I need to get myself a really good electric guitar. So if you're looking to spend your hard-earned money for a guitar, and you know, you're probably talking $1,500 up retail. Of course, street prices are much better than that, but let's just talk retail. This is about a $1,700 guitar, I think, retail, which Guitar Center sells it everything at 25% off. So you can street value is typically 25% off of whatever you see for retail. But just apples and apples, we'll talk about retail cost. So part of it is, do you want to pay for the name? I really love the Fender guitar, so let's just start talking about that to start off with. You know, you've got your Telecaster and your Stratocaster. So what's the difference between them? Well, they have a different sound, and I love the Telecaster. I think it's just a phenomenal guitar, the way it sounds and everything. It's a little bit less sexy than the Strat, and I think that that probably has a lot to do with it. The Strats have a tremolo bar, and but the Telecaster has a sound that's just completely unique. So one of the things I wanted was I wanted everything. I wanted the sound of the Tele, but I also wanted a guitar that could sound like a Strat. And then I also do, besides some just straight on, you know, sort of southern rock kind of stuff, I do a lot of finger picking style, Doc Watson and Chet Atkins and all that, and I wanted a guitar that could handle that. So one of the things that I discovered fairly early on when I was out shopping for a guitar, and I grabbed a Strat off the wall and I pulled it down and I started playing something, and my fingernails were hitting the middle pickup. Especially the pole pieces, where they raise the pole pieces in the middle strings. And I've talked to several people since, and I just kind of mentioned that, and I've heard that's a very common story. Of course, the Telecaster doesn't have that problem. If you want to have a hybrid picking style, or even just a full-on finger picking style, the Telecaster, you're not going to have anything getting in your way. So even with the Ibanez guitars, you know, they have various pickup combinations. And I wanted something that was free in the middle here, so that if I wanted to kind of, you know, get a little bit sloppy and get my fingernails down underneath the strings, I'm not going to impact anything. So let's just talk about the very top of the decision tree. The first decision you need to make is, if you want or need a guitar with a tremolo bar, don't buy this guitar, or don't buy a guitar that has got such a unique bridge in it that you can't modify it, or you wouldn't want to modify it. Sometimes you can put a Bigsby on a Telecaster or something like that, but this has the strings that go through the back like a Telecaster. And I can tell you that even without it hooked into the amp, you know, when you strike a note or a chord, you can feel the entire body resonating, and that's the idea of passing the strings through the body of the guitar. This guitar is, before I forget mentioning it, it's a little heavier than I thought it would be. I would actually prefer it to be a little lighter, but obviously that has a lot to do. The advantage is you have a better sustain, and you have a different tonal quality than you would with one that's lighter, hollowed out. This is ash. It's got, as I said, through the back. The strings go through the back. This is called a tight-end bridge. This is, some people think it's ugly. I see the beauty of its functionality. I'm an engineer, and I kind of see things. I want a workhorse. I don't want something that looks pretty and and won't hold up. Sometimes I go for days and don't tune the guitar. I mean, it's just amazing, the intonation and the height settings and everything in this bridge. Once you lock it down, it's rock solid. So if you've got some strings that aren't too new, you can go for days. You can want to. The other day I recorded something. I realized, geez, I should have tuned the guitar first. It would have been a little better. But anyway, incredible bridge. Very, very precise. We're talking about function, not looks here. So this particular Ibanez, well, let's talk about the neck. It's got a very narrow neck, which you may or may not like. I love it. I think it's great. The only thing is that sometimes when I'm playing some finger picking styles, I'm so used to playing those things on the Martin or other acoustic guitars that you're expecting to feel that Martin neck, and it's not there. You know, it's this, what they call the wizard neck. It's incredibly thin, and of course there's some pretty high-tech construction that goes into having something thin in that dimension that can maintain its rigidity and its integrity in terms of bowing or not bowing. So this is a 24 fret neck, which I think is a pretty big deal. I've been kind of playing around with some of the David Gilmour solos for Pink Floyd, and I can tell you it makes a big difference if you've got a couple of extra frets up here when you're on the 22nd fret and you're not right at the end of your tether. You know, it's really nice. It's nice. It makes it so much easier to play those things. It's just like, well, you feel like you're playing down here on the neck, but you're not right up there on that very last fret. I've noticed that even, you know, most of the newer guitars, very few of them have 24 frets, and they make a really big deal out of it when they have 24 frets. So this is pretty cool that, you know, this has 24 frets. The pickups are structured, so this guitar really will make almost any sound you can possibly imagine. However, there are some competitors for this. This is obviously a Telecaster type body. So the concept is like, you know, let's take a Telecaster and let's bring it into the 21st century. So let's get some really high-tech hardware and some really good electronics or electrics in it. These pickups are not Seymour Duncans or anything. They're Ibanez pickups, but they're really good. You know, you got to give the Japanese credit. They know how to copy things, and then a lot of times they make them even better. But I will say that the 5-position switch, the front position is the full humbucking. The second position taps this coil right here. Now there are some other guitars, since this is such a great idea, you know, there are other companies that are going to make competitors to this. One of which is Music Man. Music Man makes, I haven't played it, and I'm sure the neck is different would be the main thing. And also doesn't have 24 frets, but it's called the Reflex, but it looks almost identical. And it's basically a Telecaster body with 5-position switch and 2 coil tapped humbuckings. Now they tap this coil on the first position. Second position is the same. I think the middle position is these two, and then on the last position down here they tap closer to the bridge. Whereas this one right here, I believe, taps this one. But anyway, I noticed it was a little bit different the way they tap, and I would imagine that makes a pretty good difference. I can just say that I'm totally satisfied with the way this thing sounds. I've never been able to come up short on trying to produce any kind of sound with it. Everything from a real Strat, you know, kind of singing lead sound to a real twangy Telecaster sound, or anything in between. Play a lot of really nice Chet Atkins Kyle stuff. You can almost make it sound like a Gretsch. So and then you get a emulating amplifier, and you're really in business. So essentially, the body is carved out here and here, which is nice. The rest of it is not beveled. I do like the shape of like a Stratocaster that's beveled like this. Now, obviously you're going, well, what does it sound like? Well, you know, I was going to program up some really nice sounds and play them for you, and I'm not making excuses here. I'm really, I think, being honest when I say, first of all, I'm going to be putting a lot of videos out of various different styles, and you'll be able to hear the different sounds. The second is that, you know, you go to the Ibanez site and you pull up the FR1620, and there's a little attachment down there where you can select the sound you want, and you can, they've done a whole lot better job, and they have a whole lot more money than I do for equipment. So they've recorded some very accurate sounds, which leads me to sort of the third point, which is using a funky little Canon digital video camera. You're not going to be able to hear what I hear. It's not going to sound the same. So I could give you any number of demonstrations of different sounds, and you're not really going to be getting a good idea of what it sounds like. I would just say that there are some really good examples on the web, and also you know, this guitar is just capable of making almost any kind of sound you want when you combine it with any of the very wide ranges of different kinds of amplifiers and amplifier emulators and add-ons and stomp boxes and, you know, rack effects and everything else. So anyway, just to sum up, I would say that that I have found that this guitar, it doesn't have a tremolo bar. That might be your first concern, but I think the tremolo, that's what I struggle with the most. Do I want a guitar that just never can have a tremolo? You can't add it or anything like that. And I just thought about it long and hard, and I thought, well, I'm really looking for a complete workhorse. Most of the effects of a tremolo bar you can duplicate by, you know, on a single note easily. I mean, to where you can't even tell. You look at people who use the tremolo bar a lot in an artistic way, as far as I'm concerned, like David Gilmour, and you realize that, well, he recorded, my understanding is he recorded Dark Side of the Moon and a lot of other stuff with a Les Paul and without the tremolo bar. And I've seen him play without a tremolo bar, and, you know, unless you're really, really paying attention and you really know the music, you wouldn't really notice that there's a whole lot of difference. You can do a lot with bends and tremolo with the hand and stuff. Having said that, when you look into people like Satriani and all that, you know, I just think that, I mean, it's great and it's entertaining, but I think that, like anything else, you get a tool and it's easy to abuse it. And, you know, I think if I hear one more dive bomb, I'm going to throw up. You know, I mean, I'm just so sick. Those effects, they're gimmicks, you know, let's face it. But, you know, it's nice, you know, to come down to the end of a run and you're going, okay, is anything else going to happen? And you have a nice little tremolo there. I'll admit, I miss that. That's really nice. But no regrets. I think this is a really phenomenal guitar. And I know that if you're looking for a guitar, it's a really tough decision. And if you don't decide to get this based on something that I've told you, that's great. That's really good news. You know, I feel even better. I've just saved you from maybe buying something that you wouldn't want. But let me just tell you that this is a real piece of work here. This is probably as good as any guitar that I have ever owned. You're not paying for the Gibson name. You're not paying for the Fender name. I think that the, you know, second choice after this, I might look into the Music Man. I think Music Man makes some really cool guitars. I like their Silhouette guitars, their Strat copies. And I would look at something like maybe a sort of a Strat type guitar with maybe the dual coil tapped humbuckings instead of the 3 single coils for more versatility. Or maybe even the top candidate would be the a good Telecaster, you know, maybe the American Standard Telecaster, and you can get those with different pickup configurations. But I tell you, you know how it is when you buy something and you continue looking to see if, you know, geez, I wish I'd bought something else. That hasn't happened. I really think that this guitar is, you know, is the bee's knees. And so anyway, if you're looking for a good guitar, or you're looking for another guitar, or you're just curious about this guitar, this is a workhorse. This is not a glam guitar. This is not something that Ibanez makes a big deal out of. But if you really look at what their objectives were when they built this guitar, was to build an incredible workhorse 24 fret guitar that could make any kind of sound, play any kind of style. Geez, if you're working in a studio or something like that, it seems like this would be really, really ideal. And it came with an incredible case, fantastic hard shell case, beautiful, and it came set up amazingly well. These guitars are made in Japan. They're not farmed out to China. And so this is the, you know, that's sort of their custom shop. So anyway, can't say enough good things about it, and I hope that this has been a little bit helpful to you. I know there's a lot of money involved when you're looking for a good guitar, so it's a tough decision. So I hope this helps you a little bit in your decision-making process, okay? So I hope life is treating you well in general, and you're having a good day in particular. So take care now. Bye-bye.